It's Tuesday, January the 20th. We go through our devotional, the word for you today. Sunday we did the first Beatitude, yesterday we did the second, and today we're doing the third Beatitude. It comes out of Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. It says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Meekness is often misunderstood. It's not a weakness, but rather somebody once defined it as strength under power. Strength under power. In other words, you have the power to do something about something, but you choose not to. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus starts the Beatitudes with, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," those who recognize their desperate need for Him. And then He goes on to the second Beatitude, "Blessed are those who mourn," realizing our sin and being genuinely sorrowful for it. And then this leads us to become meek, because we recognize our need for God and our own limitations. The meek person refuses to brag on themselves and exalt themselves. The meek person is strong, but underpowered. He's not going to brag about himself, not going to talk about himself. It's not about him. It's really about the Lord. And the meek person also refuses to act out of emotion, to strike back at others who attack him. Blessed are the meek means spiritually prosperous, independent of one's circumstances, spiritually prosperous. When we behave in a meek way, we have the right to strike back at somebody. We have the right to answer them in a strong way, but we withhold that. Sometimes it's right to do it, and sometimes it's not. We're blessed. God blesses us. So how can we be the meek person that God has called us to be? How can we be like Jesus? Well, first, submit our will to God. We know God's in control, and He works all things for our good. So we realize that God is in control. And then secondly, when wrong, turn to God rather than revenge. God said, "It is mine to avenge, not yours." So we submit our will to God. We turn to God rather than seeking our own revenge. And then third, when tempted to lose our temper, turn to God for strength. When we can feel our emotions building up and we're soon going to be reacting rather than acting, then we just need to stop and say, "God, I need you to help me here because I'm about to blow it." And then be content, knowing that God makes all things right. Eventually, God makes all things right. Now, oftentimes it takes longer than we want it to, but you don't have to justify yourself before others. God will do that. And then trust in God for our present and our future. Trust God to take care of things. Be the person God's called you to be, but then trust Him for the results. It says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." In one sense, the meek have already inherited the earth, because the world doesn't have the meek. We're not trying to grab a hold of something. The meek don't try to grab a hold of something and hang on to it. It has no control over him. And blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. 50 million years from now, the meek will still be inheriting the earth. Meekness, when you see meekness in a person of authority, it's really a pretty powerful thing. In Vietnam, there was a platoon that was on a mission, and as they were going through, a young Marine, who was 19 years old, was killed by a sniper. The sniper was shooting from a village, and the man in charge of the platoon immediately called on an artillery strike into that village. He was so angry, so mad about this 19-year-old boy losing his life because of this sniper. And as he called in that order, he looked, and there was another young man in the platoon looking at him. He didn't say anything, but the platoon leader knew what he was doing was wrong. So he called back and he canceled the artillery charge. And what they did was they went in and they swept through the village, and all they found were women and children in that village. The sniper was long gone. Had the artillery fire gone there, it just would have killed a lot of women and children. The sniper was gone. And he thought, I don't think I could have lived with myself if I would have done that. But see, he was meek. He was strong enough to step back and say, you know what, I'm about to make a mistake. And what he did was he got the group together and he told them, had it not been for this one individual, he said, I would not have made the right decision. And the response of that was that the platoon grew stronger and closer together, and they trusted their leader even more, because here he changed his mind, yeah, but they saw the strength in that. It took strength to change his mind, because he realized he acted out of emotion, but then he backed off. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Next time you get ready to act out of emotion, stop and think, is this the right way to do it? Is this the right way? You'll gain a lot of respect by making the right decision. Have a nice day.